All right.
Number 2 beer, number 2 guest.
Ain't no
And
bitch.
here, yeah, right in the guest number 2. We want to thank this guy for coming on here. We're gonna bring him on, Jeff Halligan, everybody.
How you guys
Jeff,
doing?
thanks. How's it going? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing a good job.
Thanks.
Man.
Good, JC.
Are you sure?
It's
No.
definitely you.
That's
Sorry.
definitely you.
I was gonna say you're doing a good job, man. You got a win the other week. You're doing a good job. So congratulations on the win. Obviously at Port Royal, I know that's a big deal. It's a definitely a tough field every week, right? And no matter what. And sorry we couldn't get you on here last week. We just couldn't put it all together. So actually, I ended up going out of town. But to get started here, I want to get a little bit of background on you. We always do that with a lot of our guests we haven't had on before. You came on the scene for me on the radar when you got to the 358 division. I wasn't following so much of the micros and things in Central PA or anywhere else. So kind of fill everyone else in a little bit on your background and kind of your family's history, your history in racing, and how you got where you're at today.
Yeah, it was definitely a family thing. My grandpa raced midgets for years. My dad kind of tampered into racing. He got me into racing when I was 5 1/4 midgets. Moved up to 600s then when I was a teenager. Did that for a couple years. Then when I was about 18 or 19, we kind of ventured in the 358s. And that's what we did. That's what we were working towards, and had a couple opportunities along the way with Tom Rumsey, Dale Handmaker. They were the two guys that put me in a car, and then got hooked up with Aaron Long and ran his car, and then he kind of boosted me into the 410s, and then at about the same time I was running for Travis Ash. So it was kind of like they all kind of came together at the same time, and kind of got started on the 410s. And after that year, we kind of kept going on my own team, which we started at the beginning of that year. It was kind of a crazy year that year was. And we've been kind of grinding ever since. I feel like every year we've gotten better. And this year I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, no, I think so, and I think it's been a like a steady progression, right? And going from a pretty successful 358 that last season you ran, you were in contention every night. I was watching Lincoln, and you could tell that you were in control of the car. You drove really hard. Moving up to the 410s at that point seemed very inevitable to me, right? If you had the opportunities, you could put it all together. So once you got into the 410 division, I think there was even some pretty early speed early on. How do you kind of evaluate where that journey started in a 410 to where you're at today? I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs along the road, but kind of what has your progression as a driver been like to kind of be where you're at now?
It's been hard. Like this year, like I was pretty fortunate because I had, when I first started running the 410s, I had Aaron Long, who was very successful as a car owner, and then I had Travis Ash, who was running at the time. He ran the All Stars, and I had my friend Kyle Defball, who's still my crew chief now. So we were all kind of working together. So I had a really good team of people, with some people that kind of been there, done that, also helping me and Kyle along the way, which really helped. So we did come out pretty fast early, had some good runs. And then when we started doing our car, it was definitely a learning experience. um, I think you just realize I think the first full year we ran, it wasn't even a full year because it was COVID. So you didn't really get a full taste of it. Even 2020, we really didn't get a full taste of it until really 2 years ago. Trying to run 40 races is a lot harder than I think people realize when everybody works full time, and you really you almost have to have your equipment really in line, compared to the full time guys, because I feel like if they junk a car on Sunday, they can, by Thursday they can be pretty much ready to go, as long as they have inventory at the shop, which most of them do, hopefully. So being prepared, I think, is the hardest part of this. And if you're not prepared, you really get smacked hard. I would say so. You have to be prepared.
For sure. I was just telling some folks, and it didn't hit me until I did the math. I think yesterday was my 28th race of the year. I'm worn out, and I'm not working on a car. I'm not dragging a damn thing back and forth anywhere. I'm literally driving home and going to bed. So, to get 40 plus some races a year with the amount of people and logistics and time and still working, I like I look at some of those nights I go home as a fan, and I'm like, these guys got to tow a car home, wash it, get a couple hours of sleep, maybe get the damn thing maintenance in whatever form or fashion they want to, if they're a good program. And I don't know how y'all do it. I'm not that old. I know that there's guys older than me out there doing it, and I just I don't know how y'all do it. So like I know there's a lot of time and practice involved. You can really if be efficient with what you do, but it's still a lot of a time involvement from a race day, from beginning to end of that day.
Yeah, I mean, when we decide we're gonna run 2 nights in a weekend, it's like we all have to like get prepared for it. I mean, I feel like 5-6 years ago it was like no problem, and even now I feel like I'm starting to get older now with these long weekends and stuff. And, Kyle's got 2 kids now, so we have to like plan our 2 race weekends. Whereas 5-6 years ago it was like, all right, we're gonna run 2 nights a week, just figure it out as we go. But yeah, we planned out, and last year I think we ran 49 races, so that was good. And I think, like you said, efficiency. I think you just get better as you do it, and I think you have to kind of learn it. Like from my perspective, like kind of managing it. You gotta kind of learn as you go, and when you hit those valleys, we have to like kind of figure out how to like make them less bad in the future.
What do you mean the valleys? Just like bad performances or tearing up equipment,
Um,
or just like I'm worn out?
I think both. Like 2 weeks ago, we wrecked a car at port, and it pretty much destroyed everything. And I think we would have. I think if we wouldn't have wrecked that car, I think we would have probably ran the Grove last week, or try to build up to Speed Week, and I ran port to try to build up to Speed Week. So it's kind of the both deals there. And I think when you're running bad, it's even harder because with the 410s, there's no bad fields. So you even on a normal night when the top guys aren't there, like Lance, Danny, and Marks and Macri, it's extremely competitive. And if you're a little off, you're probably not going to crack the top 10. So yeah, I think when you're in a valley, for us, we just try to do whatever we can to get out of that valley, and just try to be constructive. I mean, you got to kind of like this year with me. I used to do a lot of the work, and right now I'm not really doing much during the week anymore. I mean, I still go to shop and help out, but the last couple of years, it felt like a lot of it was I was working hard all week and then get to the races and kind of burned out. And this year, it's not like that at all. I feel like I can focus on being a better driver versus car of the track every week.
So
you feel like that's helped?
Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's helped a lot, and I'm pretty anal retentive with the race car. But I think not like being involved as much as helped, because then you don't really think about it when you get in the car. You don't really think about it at all anymore. You just go drive it, and then I just work on being a driver and giving feedback instead of figuring out what I can fix it. And it's helped. I think it's helped. I think since the end of April, we've been very consistent. I mean, we've been there almost every race, even outside of port, which is really, we couldn't do that at all last year. We couldn't. I mean, outside of port, we weren't really good.
Fair.
I was going to mention that. I did notice, at least I've noticed a bigger spike in your consistency. So it's kind of interesting to say that you've been able to take a little bit of almost a hands-off approach and focus more on the driving, and it's definitely have showed. So
yeah, that's a testament to the people I got helping. Like Kyle and Jeff Defaball. I mean, they both helped me. My girlfriend Bree, Roger and Deb Dutry. I mean, their shop. Roger does a lot. He's retired, so he can run to Kreitz during the week or whatever. If we need to take a motor to Tim or something like that, it's nice having that person. And then John Simmons and Brian, and yeah, they help us at the track, and it takes a load off the rest of us during race night. So I think we got a pretty good team right now, and I'm pretty eager to. It's weird. It feels like we're at Speed Week now, but we haven't it doesn't feel like we race much.
Well, almost half of Port's races have gotten rained out, and a lot of Groves as well too. So
Right.
it does. I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Sharp had that graphic. I was
Yeah.
seeing it's about, I think there's what now 9 port races in out of like 17 that were scheduled or something. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
hit those in the last. I mean, we had 2 in one. So I think heading into the Weichert, we only had 4 races at Port, which is crazy because it was Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Talking to Kyle about that week, I'm like, man, we're heading into the Weichert because we're like, because the Weichert's a pretty tough field of cars, and normally we're like, you kind of build up to it, and it didn't really feel like that this year. And it was like, oh man, we had during COVID year we had 2 races at Port at this time, and we only have 4 now. Well, it's like, wow, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was. And I looked at some of mine and I was like, man, I haven't been to Port in a while. I'm like, well, I haven't ran in a while. Like I felt like I hadn't been up there in a month, and I really wasn't. I think I might have missed 1 race. All right. So definitely interesting the way it's worked out timing. You talked about kind of the performances away from Port, and the one that really stood out to me was Baps a few weeks ago. The battle with Kyle Reinhardt there. That was I will always and forever be a fan, and I was absolutely entertained. Second sucks for sure, but you tried every opportunity you had, you took and made the attempt to do it. What else did you need? Did you kind of like just need to make it enough where it killed his momentum that he couldn't turn back, or what do you think you needed there at the end or during that run to kind of finish that one off?
I think I think there were a couple things. Like I feel like I had a good shot at him a couple times, and I maybe overshot it a little bit, and kind of got sucked in by the curb. And I feel like that particular instance was almost like just not having the experience there, really. And then I think the one time I actually did clear him, and we came off at 2, and I didn't see him, so I thought I was clear, and I wasn't. I left the door open. I feel like I could have really slammed the door going into 3 there, and I think that could have changed the outcome of that race. But I think regardless, I think Kyle drove a really good race. And I think I was a better car, which really sucks because I feel like we were a better car, and it was a little 1 lane, but by the end of that race, it was really getting good, and it was like the race was over because I felt like I started finding a line, and I think coming to the checkered there, Norris got into the fence, and I think if he wouldn't have gotten the fence, it would have been. I think I would have had a shot him there at 3 and 4. I really do, because I found a little line in the middle, and he was in dirty air, and it was almost like every time he was in dirty air is when I could actually do something. But yeah, it was really that was a good race. He ran good.
The final restart. Did you guess that a little wrong?
Yeah, I kind of got into him, went a little early. I definitely was geared up. I mean, I haven't won at Babs, haven't won in a while, and I definitely made a mistake there and lost my run. And it definitely sucked because I feel like I would have had a shot there too. Because if I wouldn't have got into him off of 4, I really closed the gap in 3 and 4. So yeah, you live and learn. I mean, that's part of racing. I mean, and you can't really make mistakes 410.
It is part of it, and it's not really a mistake per se, as versus like, hey, I need to know I need to be going into 1 close to have a shot. You
Yeah,
either don't guess and you just late and you just go and you react and you're gapped anyway, or you try to get it right. So, I actually took a picture of his tail tank bar or push bar, whatever it is. I took a picture of Victory Lane. I'm like, that's where Jeff hit him. I'm pretty sure. 'Cause I was standing 3 and 4 on that restart. I'm like, oh, because I don't know if you saw the replay, but what happened behind you? Did you happen to catch all that?
I did see the replay, and I'm kind of glad because I really had a bad entry in 1. I feel like I could have got past like the 1.
It's calculated, man.
I was going down the front stretch. I'm like, I'm probably gonna get past here. And I thought Kyle went to the top, and I made another mistake because I kind of followed him into 1. I'm like, oh boy. And I'm like, oh, nobody came around me. I'm gonna have at least a shot in 3 and 4, but I wasn't really close. But yeah, it was it's a cool. I mean, Babs is pretty racy. It's been pretty racy this year, minus the rubber down race.
For
But
sure. And I've always since I was a kid, I watching races there. The 410s always put on a good show there somehow. Except with that exception, you get that one here and there. Every track has it, but it always puts on a good show. And Dirty Air means a ton there. And it's two different corners for sure. And the 3 and 4 is like a shelf up there. If you can't make them, it's just very unique and challenging. But it has sort of a short track feel, but it also has some of the fairly long straightaways. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic the way it works.
yeah, you get wing. It's I think it's just a standard. Like I was talking to somebody and it was like, you go to we've been going to BAPS instead of the Grove because the Grove is very technical and you got to get really good at the Grove. And I think BAPS is just kind of like a normal racetrack that you would see anywhere. And I think you could take what you learn at BAPS and maybe take it to Williams Grove or Lincoln or Port Royal. It's kind of in the middle of all of them tracks. And I think, we've been pretty good there. I haven't raced much there at all because I just never really bothered to go. And my one sponsor, RV Four Wheel Drive, they're kind of promoting it this year. So we were just talking about the shop. We went to the first race and we're like, well, if we get a top 5, we'll run the whole thing. And we ended up getting a top 5. So it was like,
Well, there's that.
I mean, in the points money, there's pretty good money up for grabs for running all of them, right? Is it like a points deal? I want to say.
yeah, it's basically like what a standard feature would pay if you're in the top 10. And yeah, it's good. I mean, but 10 races, I mean, it's basically the same point fund that Port Royal pays, and you're running 25 races. So you're on 10 races. I mean, it's doable. It's very manageable to be able to do it. And I feel like it's helped us. It's helped me. I think as a driver, helped Kyle with the car. I think it's just a place you go to, and I feel like Lincoln and the Grove are extremely technical. And BAPS is more just like I just look at it like, oh, it's just a racetrack. You get pretty winged down at BAPS, whereas Lincoln you don't get really winged down. You got the hairpins at Lincoln and Williams Grove. You're winged down and then you go to a hairpin.
It makes sense of that, right?
Yeah. And then Port Royal's like, just a big bowl almost.
Yep.
They're all.
So what you didn't know really happened behind you was Chad Trout, I think, was paying back Devin Borden a little bit from earlier in the race, and it kind of killed. I think what happened was when you kind of checked up off of Kyle's bumper, everyone else sort of did too, and it created that accordion deal. So you got a gap when you thought you got a shitty start. It kind of created a gap a little bit because of it, but yeah, they were just causing chaos behind you, so it kind of left you kind of like get out of there a little bit.
I'll take that one then.
So I do want to get into something, maybe I don't know, whatever. It is what it is. You've had some run-ins this year. Obviously, some of these run-ins are inevitable when you start running in the front of the field. There are going to be times, this happens with every driver that has ever run near the front of features. You've been up front a lot this year. You've had some things go on. How do you handle that stuff when it happens? Whether you believe you're at fault or not, how do you, in your world, your bubble, handle those things?
I think when you're in the situations, it's I think your emotions can get to you pretty quick. I mean, the Whitall deal. I mean, it was the last lap, and in the seat, he just cleaned out my front end on the last lap, and I was pretty upset. I went up there and gave him a hand gesture and kind of initiated a little bit, and I didn't think he should have ran me over. I thought that was a little over the line, but I did. And when I watched the replay, it wasn't as bad. I did get rolled up a little bit on the curb. I probably should have went to the bottom. I mean, it's I mean, I think things just happen. It's racing, and we both had in cars.
What's the chances?
I completely forgot about my thing on. I forgot Luis had a video on that us that night, but it was, yeah. What are the chances? But I mean, when you watch it, it's a racing deal that I feel like we both got heated, and it's not really a big deal in my opinion.
So when you have a scenario as a driver and you make a mistake hard racing and you know it's on you, the other driver's pissed off, wants a piece of something. How have you handled that in your career? Maybe not even instance this year, but in the past, if you knew you owned up to, or you know it was you, right? Let's say it was hard racing, you made a mistake, a driver error. How have you handled that for yourself personally?
Um, yeah, I just apologize. I mean, again, that happened to me this year. This year at the Grove, I got into Mark Smith in the heat race. He was pretty upset at me, and it was just one of those deals where I felt like he was way ahead of me, and I wasn't even really racing him, and I just kind of charged into three, and I don't know if he got rolled up or something, but I got into him, and yeah, that was another rough one. But yeah, I apologized the next day to Ron. I apologized to Mark on the track, but I don't know if he heard me.
Or wanted to hear you.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's racing. I mean, you got to be pushing the envelope every lap. So you just try to be clean. I mean, I try to be clean for all the time, and things happen though. I mean, ask anybody, things happen. I think things are blown out of proportion a little too much sometimes because I mean, you're racing. We're not driving on the way, you know.
Right, and
100%.
I think Jeremy, you hit on that a couple weeks ago talking about Freddie and Danny and their fans. The passion behind the fan bases and the drivers kind of drives that blowing out proportion thing a little bit.
Yeah,
So I can see that to an extent for sure.
yeah, and I mean,
It's one of those things where, let's say, Jeff did somebody wrong. Every instant you're ever in, then you're wrong. So, especially if you did it to somebody who has a big fan base, right? Like you made a mistake, even if you apologize, you made a mistake, you're now known as that guy for a while. And sometimes that goes away, sometimes that doesn't go away. But then every time there's contact and the other driver loses that battle, you're going to be that guy for a while. So, like, hey, we all need villains. So if you got to be that guy, like, we're here for it as fans. I'm a fan,
Well,
man. Like,
the way
like
the way I see it, this villain, if he's a so-called villain, he's sitting third in Port Royal points, right on the heels of Borden and guys. So I think he's doing something right, at least for him. I don't know.
I don't. Uh, I feel like every driver is aggressive. I mean, I don't care who you're racing the 410s. It feels like everybody's aggressive, and if you're not on your toes, you be getting pinched or something like that, and you just gotta go as hard as you can every lap. And I think things happen, and that's part of racing.
I saw Saturday night at Port, and I don't know if it's just because I'd been there a while or the state of the track, but it felt like everybody was fighting for the inside line in one, just diving to the bottom of one. Is that am I crazy? Did it seem like there was more of it Saturday night? Was it the track or is that sort of maybe just something I haven't paid attention to?
I mean, I feel like the track's been like that most of this year. Um, you get up on the, I feel like the top and one and two kind of shelves off now, whereas before I felt like it was like a ramp, and you could get in there even if there wasn't anything to lean on. You can kind of just get in there and use the banking to turn you and carry speed. And now it seems like you need something to lean on there. And the way it feels, it just the banking's still kind of in the middle of the bottom, and I feel like everybody's fighting for it. And they were watering the track all night Saturday, so I felt like the moisture was just kind of staying around, and there was really no racing on the track until the sun went down. It was just time trials and hot laps, and no racing until the sun went down because of all the time trials that we had to run. So yeah, I think the moisture just kind of stuck around, so you could kind of search around for the moisture. I mean, that's what it felt like to me Saturday. Almost like one lap you would hit a moisture spot and gain 4 car lengths, and next lap you would lose 2 car lengths. It was very patchy on Saturday. I felt like.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you explain it that way in a driver's terms because it was funny watching guys sort of almost change lines every corner, even if they weren't in traffic. The Silver Crown, or no, you suck. Silver Crown, CV was just running like 40 to 60% middle of the track. It wasn't a very middle, but it was like a little up, little down, and like he found just a line of moisture, and he was just super settled. And it really wasn't like in the banking. It wasn't up like high, but it wasn't at the bottom. And then watching the USAC cars, one was running the middle, and then Grant just ripped around the top and made it work. So it very felt like it may not have looked very exciting in the corners, but you guys, it definitely looked like a challenge to go find that moisture every corner. Could you see it, or did you just have to feel it and hope it was there again when you got back?
Yeah, you just had to feel it and hope it was there when you got back. I mean, it changed a lot. I mean, the beginning of the race, I felt the first 5 laps, I felt really great. The second 10 laps, I felt okay, and then I started getting a rhythm again. And then the last 3 laps, I felt pretty bad again. It was really weird, and it's so momentum based. And Port's so slick, so if you hit a slick spot, it takes you half a lap to get back up to pace. So yeah, it's you just kind of hit the marks and hope it's there, and try to keep your wing speed up as much as possible and keep the car straight. But yeah, it was good. I thought it was a good race. I watched the Silver Crown race. I thought that was a heck of a race, and of course USAC race too, and that was a good run.
So with the Silver Crown race, you saw Chase Deeds race Silver Crown. Is that something you thought maybe wanting to give a shot someday?
Yeah,
Man,
that was really impressive.
Right.
That was really impressive. What second pay? It's just cool. I mean, it was. I watched the race because I'm like, I saw Chase time well. We were watching the time trials, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch the end of this. Yeah, I saw he was running third on Race Monitor, so I watched the end of it, and yeah, same deal. I mean, when you watch that race, one lap, Chase looked like he was gonna win the thing.
Right.
Cars.
Yeah.
And it was entertaining. I mean, the USAC or the Silver Crown race was pretty entertaining. I just like how I feel like they race each other really respectfully, and it was kind of cool to watch. I mean, you couldn't overdrive a Silver Crown car. And when I saw Chase's time trial lap, I thought when he went into 3 the first time, I thought he was going to go out over. Pretty straight.
It didn't look that different 1 and 2, even though the wall's higher. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
At that time, he went quick time and a track record, and he's bouncing off the wall the whole way through 1 and 2. And I'm like, how's this possible?
It was pretty cool. I was pretty cool to see him run well with that. I mean, that's I don't think many people can take their first Silver Crown start and pass Brady Bacon. And,
no.
Right.
No, I was here watching on flow. He wouldn't go away the whole feature. He just stayed there, ready to contention. And I thought too at the end he was going to steal that win away. And I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Late caution changed it all.
And he searched around. I mean, he didn't pin himself to one line. He really searched around, and he's a Lincoln guy. It's even more impressive.
Right.
I had a really possibly. Oh yeah. So something I noticed at Port Royal this week again, and I don't remember. I've seen it sporadically, but I feel like it was half the field. Guys carrying the right front down the straightaway. I've seen it here and there at Port. At the Grove, it's pretty common. I see 6, 8, 10 people with a little bit or a lot. You were a guy that was definitely carrying the right front. I probably saw no less than 6 or 7 guys that were really visibly hiking up the right front. Is that a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing, or do you think that's a product of the track, or what? Or am I crazy that it's just been there and I haven't noticed it?
I think you're right, and I think that's cool. I think that's funny, Jeremy, because I feel like every time I listen to your podcast, I feel like you always say something that most fans don't notice, and so you do it in such a simple way that it really gets me thinking sometimes. But I feel you're right. I don't feel like many guys have been carrying the right front the past couple of years like they are now, and I don't know if it's the new tires or what, because I feel like the new left rear sidewall is a little softer. So maybe it's just easier to get laid down the left rear and carry that right front. We were actually talking today how can we try to keep it down, which is kind of crazy because we were carrying the right front pretty good last week when we won. So I mean, it's kind of you don't want to get too far off your base, but I think if you're running the fence at Port Royal, which we haven't seen, so I think that might be part of it. I mean, the only one that's really run the fence successfully in the last 4 races was Macri Saturday night at the Weikert. I mean, even Sunday, he didn't really go anywhere when he was running the top. He kind of moved down too. But Saturday, he was the only one that ran the fence at Port and did something. I mean, everybody else behind him, everyone's like, Macri Saturday, he just ran the fence and kind of ran away with it. Why wasn't anybody else up there? Because I was in the mid pack running around 10th. Everybody that I saw run the fence, we drove by. So, he was making time up there, but his car was good enough to be up there. And I think you don't really want your right front carrying like crazy going into turn 1 at Port either. So I think by not running the fence, you can kind of get away with a tighter race car.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, I agree, and I didn't think. See, and that tells me that makes sense, right? So, I know like Brent. I'm a Brent fan. There's no secret, and he doesn't carry the right front
Never.
anywhere really, but he likes to run the fence. So it's just in the setup. There's definitely a setup thing, but that makes a lot of sense. That like I wouldn't want to have my right front 2 feet in the air and then try to run the fence, get the car down, and get on the fence, and keep your momentum up. So I think you can run that right front like that and have enough time to get the nose down, get the car in the middle turn or a little bit of a slider or whatever the case may be. And you're right. I was telling some other people that Macri won that race going away and the only car on the fence. And there's guys that were behind him that can run the fence, and they were not. Like Brent passed a lot of cars that night, middle bottom, and he does not want to be down there. So
we were falling right up through it, and it was the same thing. Like it was running the fence, and you were just car after car after car. The guys running the middle bottom were just passing them, and I watched the replay. I'm like, I was thinking, Macri on my 9th or whatever, however many seconds on that. There's no way he was on the fence, and I watched the replay. He was around the fence the whole time. Like, oh my, you gotta do to keep.
Somebody had to be signaling to him a huge lead and just kept running harder and harder and harder. And I'm like, okay, bro, like you got a 9-second lead here. Like, I don't know if you have to do that. You know what I mean? Like give up a half a second if you don't feel comfortable, or if move down in 1 and 2, whatever. So obviously
that it makes it look like he's running hard. He's really not.
you're not wrong. It looks on the edge, right? It looks edgy. Like you can make a mistake, but honestly, the speed is not that high where you can still upset the car, run into a little bit. You're not going to kill yourself, right? Like you're not going to knock the rear end out of it or something like that. I mean, even though Whittle did that night, but I think it was that night. No, wait, yeah, it was that night or the second night. He actually went up, got on the cushion, and hit the wall hard enough. It was on entry though. Once you guys are slowed down and settled, middle and exit, you can kind of do that where you like bounce off a couple times and use that as a slingshot almost. So
I told him I hit the wall. I destroy rear end. You gain a 2/10. I don't know how you do
it. What are your
like crazy?
What are your speed week plans?
I think we're gonna run Lincoln on Saturday, Babs on Sunday, and then we're gonna run Port, Selinsgrove, and Port. I think we're gonna take it pretty easy this year. I mean, I don't really want to run the whole speed week unless we all take off work, and nobody really wanted to take off work for this week. And and the last couple of years we tried to run, like last year we tried to run 7, and the year before that we tried to run 7, I think, and I think it just hurts us in September. So I think this year we're just gonna kind of do our deal and do two multi-race weekends and see what we can do. Put our effort into those 5 shows, which is a lot for us.
So we've taken up a lot of your time, so I'm gonna keep you moving here. If you've watched the podcast, what's that?
Having a good time.
Huh.
True.
That's good.
True.
So
Listen, if we did this and we're continuing to having a good time, we'd be here till midnight. Like we get done these shows sometimes with no guests, and we're like, holy shit, how did we talk for 2 hours? Like we love it. So
what even happened?
there's a lot of racing this weekend. We didn't we want to chat about. So it's like, okay, we'll keep things moving so we can all go to bed. Like Jimmy's, it's almost past his bedtime already. So
Me too.
So I got every guest gets these questions. I have definitely my question. Chris will have one.
Jimmy will do
2
his
drivers, somebody you love racing with, and somebody who's a pain in your ass.
Um, I'll do the love first. I really like racing with, and I've heard a lot of guys, and it's funny because I feel like his people that hate Dietrich, every time he does something wrong, it's all after him. But every time I race with Danny, he's very aggressive, very clean, and I feel like I learned something every time I race with him. And it's just cool to be able to race like that. And it's very aggressive, but at the same time, it's like he'll never put you in a really bad position. I would say. And then
Unless your name's Raymer. I'm just saying.
I think Danny races people how they race him. I think that's part of the deal. So, and I think when you race with Danny, you know that. I don't really get into like a money match with Danny because I think he'll beat me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, he's so experienced that if he's passing me or something, and he can kind of take the air off my wing pretty gracefully. And I think there's very few guys that I race with that can actually do that without screwing themselves, I should say. And so it's just pretty cool racing because every time you get in a situation like that, you're like, oh, okay, I got to kind of do something a little different next time when you're racing somebody like Danny or any of the top guys, really. They all do it. And then you kind of learn how you try to do it yourself too, try to. And I don't know, somebody I don't like racing with, I feel like it's hard racing with a lot of these guys. I don't know. Someone that's been hard to pass for me lately has been Reinhardt, it seems like. I feel like we're at a race together. We're like magnets. We're always near each other this whole year, really, which is funny because, well, he's been on the All-Star for the last 2 years. But normally we don't really race each other. So it's like every time we pull in, at Lincoln with the Outlaw Show, we're racing each other in the B main. A couple weeks ago at BAPS, we were racing each other for 10th. And the next week at BAPS, we're racing each other for the lead. It's like every race
away.
seems like, and it's always like if I'm better than them, it's like you got to really work for it. So, which is fun, and I think a lot of the 410 guys are like that too. It's just I don't think it's really easy to pass anybody in the 410. There's very few cars that are, I would say, easy to pass. So, yeah, those are my two, I guess.
Fair enough, Chris.
All right, so question for you. So you mentioned September. We know that's big around here. So, what would be a race that you really want to win in the sprint car?
I think definitely the Tuscarora 50 is the one we circled. I haven't even made the show yet, so I'd like to start with that.
You never made it. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
That's crazy.
Well, first time we actually ran Tuscarora 50, and we had a bad qualifying run, and when the 55, like you have a bad qualifying run, you're in the pole, and we actually started 12th in the B and drove up to 5th, one spot out. So, yeah, I'd like to make the show, and I think we could run really well at the Tuscarora 50, just because of the way the track gets.
And you've been running really well there this year too, so that helps.
Yeah, and I think the way that races, I feel like it fits my style a little bit more. And definitely the Weikert, that'd probably be number 2. So basically the Port Royal shows.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
And just actually, like a 1B question too. Kind of since you mentioned Port World twice, you're obviously going for the championship. What's your outlook for your hope for the rest of the season? Is it push for the championship? Do you think that's a realistic goal for you?
Yeah, I think it's very realistic. I think we're running really well. I think we got to limit the DNFs. Like 2 weeks ago, really hurt us with the points. But I think we just got to keep running well and try to win races. I feel like we can. I feel like we're good enough to race with anyone at Port. I think a couple weeks ago when we won, we were really, really good, like really good. and I would have been. It's going to be interesting to see what we can do for the Speed Week shows at Port with the heavy hitters in the area going to be there. Lance, Danny, Marks Macri, and then anybody else who's going to come in for it.
Right.
Be good. So it's going to be interesting to see how we fare up, and I think we time trial for the Speed Week shows really well. We'll be okay. I think we're in a good position to keep running well at Port. I really do, and hopefully we can run well other places. Yeah, I don't really know what the outlook is. I feel like we take it like month by month, and right now we only schedule up until the last end of Speed Week. So we'll definitely be at Port, definitely be at Babs, and Grove hit or miss.
About Sealands Grove.
Sealands Grove, yeah, we'll be at Sealands Grove. I'm not sure when they're running. I don't know their schedule really. I'm not sure when they're running after the Speed Week show. Not sure when they're running after that. I think it's when the Outlaws are here. They're running. I think they have a show when the Outlaws are.
I think you're right. I think they do, and then they also have an All-Star show later this year, and they have a
Yep.
couple Sunday shows. So
we'll probably be at the All-Star show. Yeah, I think our main goal is to be there in September and be good in September, because every year, I mean, last year we ran through September and the beginning of October, but we weren't very good. We kind of faded off, almost like kind of the year just kind of wore down on us, wore down on the engines, our equipment. We were kind of piecing things together, try to go to the races, and I feel like I want to get to like 45, 50 shows, but still be pretty fresh at the end of the year for the Tuscarora 50, National Open, the Outlaws Report, any other big races. I mean, Sealands Grove has their National Open, which is I think 26,000 to win. So I think I'd like to run well those months and try to build up to that. And I think we'll be okay. I'm pretty excited for Speed Week. I'm pretty excited to get out of Port Royal again and back to Lincoln, because we haven't really run well there. I mean, we showed up there twice this year and had two did not qualify because we were racing the Outlaws, and the first night was blind on a new tire, but it was blind on this new tire. And then the second night it was just like we did time trials and you get buried and you're
it's hard to make
up.
it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what you got?
No other plans. Like you're not like no Outdoor Million, nothing like that.
We talked about the Eldora Million. Actually, at the beginning of the year, we were like, "Oh yeah, let's go." And then you kind of analyze it a little bit, and we really did. We were seriously going to do it. And in fact, when the schedule came out, we were going to do it. But Port has a race that Saturday, which kind of sucks. And I didn't really. I think when that came out, Port hadn't had their schedule out yet. In the last 2 years, they had the Kings Royal night off, and I think the original idea was, oh, we'll go to the Million with the intent of running, not really with the intent of learning and try to run decent at the Kings Royal Saturday, like kind of get better out throughout the week. But since that happened, it was kind of like, we kind of were against it. But we're hoping that that's a huge success, and then they come back next year. Because if they come back next year, I think we might go to the 4 Crown at the end of the year. And
cool.
We didn't really want to go to the Million as the first time getting laps on Eldora. I mean, the Kings Royal is one thing. The Million, I mean, it's going to be I feel like it's going to be a Knoxville Nationals atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure.
Been more intense. Maybe even more intense. But yeah, I hope they do it again next year is what I'm hoping. I mean, to really do it, you got to do what Donnie and Lance are doing. You really should be at every race that Eldora has before
Get
that.
as many laps as you can.
Yeah, get as many laps as you can before that to really give yourself a really good chance at making a show and potentially running up front. I mean, it's going to be you got to look at like all them outlaw teams, all the high dollar all-star teams, all the high dollar teams that aren't racing with a series, they're going to have everything that they can have to win that race. Like everything, they're going to have their best motor, and it's just different than when you're racing them guys. Say it like let's just say a regular Port Royal Outlaw show or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be a cool deal. I'll be watching, and I hope they do it next year, and we can get some more laps at Eldora before if that happens.
You mean just showing up and with no laps and no experience and selling T-shirts is not the way to go?
I don't know.
Think that's not advisable.
I don't know. Double-edged sword, because you gotta, you can make that, you can take that, you can use that as an excuse every time.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a double-edged sword. It's just like Knoxville. I mean, you gotta go run Knoxville at some point. I mean, you gotta go run Knoxville at some point, and the first time it's not going to be pretty. Everybody I've seen, all the top guys from around here, even the really good ones, Marks, Danny, Macri, their first time at Knoxville was not pretty. And I feel like Eldora is kind of like that. I feel like, because it's a.
Uh-oh. We lose him?
Phone.
Oh man, you should have heard what I was just about to say. My
Maybe
wife
we-
just walked. So my wife just walked in with a look of disgust and pure like hatred for
Oh,
me.
no. She's
And I was
selling
just going to
shoey.
tell Jeff that if he wins the Tusky 50, I would do another shoey.
Oh wait, Jay-Z wasn't here. We signed you up for this already.
But I'm off the hook. So wait, you signed me
No.
up for what?
If Kyle Spence wins the Tuscarora 50, you're doing
Yeah.
another shoey in Victory Lane.
What?
While
If Kyle
while
Spence
Ant
wins the
streaks-
Tusky 50, I'll do it
while
on
Ant
both
sh-
damn shoes.
if it makes you feel better, Ant's gonna streak down the front stretch.
Jeff is back.
All right.
All right,
I will do the double shoey down the front stretch while he streaks down the front stretch if Kyle Spence wins the Tusky 50. Yes. I will do that live in the shoes I was wearing at that time. Hey, Jeff's back. Hey, I'll let you guys finish up. I'm not going to say it now. I'm not,
He was going to say that if he won the Tuscarora 50, he was going to do a shoey.
I'll do
So you
another
can-
one.
So,
Yeah,
No.
No, I will.
Yeah.
If you win the Tusky
If
50,
you win,
if you win
yeah.
the 50, he's doing a shoey at the 50, which I know he will be at because we will be there.
oh, I'll be there, and I'll do it. Victory
I
Lane
will
with you.
also. I would
Victory
also
Lane.
do that with you. I'll do that with you.
I'm
Oh,
still
now
not
you-
doing it, by the way,
Why?
It's okay.
because I just want to be like Kyle Spence and stand not doing a shoey. I'll film it.
Before we let you go, I just want to get to some user comments that we had over the course of the interview. Donna Halligan, sorry. There he is, my handsome nephew.
He moved out to Colorado like a year ago.
Oh wow, that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah, miss him.
Fred Putney said you're a good wheelman. Fred, shout out to Fred. Randy Maneval, impressive win at Port 2 weeks ago. And then Brandon Maben, 45 has been on fire on the bottom, but sorry guys, 69K for the 50. It's hard to bet against that.
We're not
Fans
doing a
everywhere.
shoey for Lance if he wins the 50. That doesn't
I
seem
might.
right.
No.
I might.
You might.
And then real quick, John Sertich, hoping the rain holds out this coming week. It could change, but it looks crazy as of right now. Fingers crossed. Yes, it does.
Friday's like 89% chance of rain.
Yeah.
I don't look at the weather.
idea.
Friday's
Always-
89%
That you're never
89%
disappointed.
rain.
That's what I
If
saw.
Friday's an 89% chance of rain, that's a
Might as well.
100% chance that they cancel.
Yeah. Jeff, I like Jeff's idea. Don't look at the weather. It's always sunny. So it's not.
Somebody always tells me.
Before we let you go, you want to give some shout outs to the sponsors and people that help you get to and from the track?
Yeah, it takes a bunch of people to keep this deal going. Brent Debrisser, huge. EMM Sales and Service, thetreecenter.com, Jim Howler's Maple Syrup, Jake's Carts, RV 4-wheel drive, Victory Auto, Pine Hill Trailers, Panther Frameworks, Keystone Ag Spring, alloy wheel repair, HP engines, Roach wings, Newland bar service, AL driveline, high def suspension. I feel like all those guys, I mean, some sponsors are a little bigger role than others, but I feel like we couldn't do it without any one of them, really. Yeah, my crew, I mentioned them earlier by name, and yeah, it takes a lot of people to keep this deal going. So hopefully we can stay consistent and keep, battling up front. Really excited to race against the fields we're going to be racing against this week. So I think I think it's going to be a really, really good speed week with the new tires and everything. I feel like the racing's been really good. So it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be interesting. Hopefully the weather plays nice.
Yeah, hopefully.
I do have a question, Jimmy. Can you bring that picture back up of on the cushion on the at Port Royal?
Yep.
That picture right there. So something I've noticed with you, Jeff, is your seating position in the car and kind of the way you're in there. Like you're like really forward a lot of times I notice. Is that something that you do consciously? Do you know that? Like I noticed that more with you than others, just the way you sit in the seat. Is that just a comfort thing? It's just the way it is, or is there something else that I've observed here that am I crazy?
I think it's just a comfort thing. I feel like it's just to kind of keep me straight up. I think our A's are a little back on this car, where the frame rail. So I think it kind of looks like that, but from a
Okay.
size, it's not much different from. It would look more normal, I think, in a Maxim or a standard car, I would say.
That makes sense. And we were talking about optical illusions at one of the tracks recently that someone asked, like, does that car look, oh, it was Borden's car with that
Borden.
panel, right? Someone goes, is he driving like a Silver Crown car? Like someone who doesn't know a lot about racing, right? And I'm like, no. I said, it's an optical illusion. It makes the car look longer than it is because you're used to seeing that open at that area. So I don't know if the car isn't that much longer. So like that, what makes sense though, it's an optical illusion. Kind of what you're saying is your seating position looks different because of the way those bars are. So that makes sense.
Well, yeah, if you look at Borden's car, the chassis is extended back, and the wings in the same position as, like, I would say, a standard. So it really looks weird with the wing and the frame. To keep the wing, kind of at a standard spot for the. Yeah, Jim's trying stuff. He's always trying stuff.
I like it.
That's how you
Trying
go
stuff.
faster.
You never know what you find, right?
Oh, it's kind of that's what makes racing fun. Someone told me racing's like golf. You do it all your life, and you're never really as great as you probably could be. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on,
Perfect.
man.
Yeah, thank you so much
Thank you, Jeff.
and good luck here in the future. We'll see you at Port.
Yeah, I like what you guys are doing. I like that you guys cover all disciplines of PA racing. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we
So
try. Thanks.
Awesome.
Doing
Thank you,
that.
Jeff.
Yep.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, Jeff. Thanks.